is America.
America!
I do love America.
Be a part of the show at 850-233-9988. The Kramer Show on NewsTalk at 101.
October the 1st, 2019. Welcome in. Scott Mager is with us today. Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team. If you are going through something with the insurance company or any otherwise legal battle, problem, question, call us up, get on the air, 850-233-9988. Welcome in, Mr. Scott Mager. What's happening, brother?
How you doing, pal?
Doing all right. Doing all right. How are you? What's going on? What's the latest?
I'm doing great. I thought that today we might talk about a couple of things that might remind people about what available coverage they have, and then talk about some specifics. So we, a couple of times, have talked about the different coverages that people have, but I'm not sure that everybody remembers them. And so I thought it'd be helpful to go over them. So generally speaking, you have 4 different coverages that is found in your insurance policy. And if you have an insurance policy in front of you, you'll be able to see the first page that is the cover page is called the declarations page. And if you don't know where that is, you can ask your agent to tell you which page that is. And what it does is it lists out each coverage that you have and how much coverage you have on that. So in other words, if you have coverage A, which is your structures, you know, your roof and your walls, the foundation of your coverage, it'll have a category that says coverage A, and then it'll say how much coverage there is. Say it's $200,000. That means you have $200,000 of available coverage minus your deductible to cover things that are related to that coverage, things that are related to the roof or to the structure itself. The next coverage is coverage B, which relates to your other structures, your fences, your detached carport, your shed or barn, sometimes your pool, things that are not affixed directly to the structure, but are structural in nature. And then you'll see a column for that, how much coverage there is. Commonly, that is 10% of your coverage A. By default, you can buy as much coverage as you want, but it might be $20,000. Then you have coverage C, which is nicely stated as contents, C being contents. And those are the things that are inside your house, your furniture, your clothing, things which are the contents inside the home. And there'll be a coverage amount for that. And a lot of times people can get more coverage for a very, very low amount of money. Oftentimes they don't know that. And then there is coverage D, which is your what's called loss of use. Some people call it ALE because it's acronym for additional living expenses, because that seems to be a more understandable term because it involves what additional expenses you might have during the time that the storm prevented you from either living in your home or paying the same amount of money that you normally would have paid. So if you had to move out of your home, obviously rent at the new place in excess of whatever your rent was at the place you have or mortgage was in the place you have, you could recover. The same thing occurs for if you had to store your goods. And you and I went over a litany of things that could theoretically fit within the coverage D amount. And those types of items for many people was surprising in terms of what coverage D could potentially cover that people didn't know, and that is things like restaurant meals, utilities if they were more expensive than your home utility bill, furniture rental, storage costs, pet boarding costs if you had to board your pet while you had to live somewhere else, all kinds of charges associated with when you had to move into a temporary place, like if you had to take out an insurance policy on the contents in a temporary rental house, if you had to pay a credit card check fee, if you had more cell charges, that were above and beyond because you had to move to a different location, if you had a sewer fee at the new property, if you had mailing expenses related to your claim, if you had moving expenses, and things of that sort. If you had to pay a fee when you moved out, like a cleaning fee, in order to move back into your place. So those things also were covered under the coverage D. In the coverage D, as well as coverage C, you need to itemize those expenses. So when we talk about coverage D, if you have to move out and you had to live in a rental place, then you need to have the receipts for those things. If you had to live in a hotel, the duty is on you, the burden is on you to provide those coverages so it is clear, those bills, so it is clear that the insurance company knows what those expenses are. And if you have contents that have been devastated or destroyed, you need to, if you don't know the cost of them, you need to go out and find that cost and provide it to the insurance company. Remember that it is your duty to prove what you are owed. It is not, let me repeat, it is not the insurance company's duty to tell you how much money they think they should pay you on items that you haven't told them about. So it is very important that you take the affirmative duty and make sure that you or your public adjuster has gone and itemized all of those things. A lot of times, public adjusters will itemize only expenses and things in coverage A and coverage B, and won't itemize your contents or your loss of use, your ALE. And so you need to make sure, as the listener, that you are doing that and that you make that, because otherwise the insurance company won't pay you the full amount of money that you're due and owing. And so it's important for you to make sure that the insurance company has all of the information that is related to damages for coverage A, B, C, and D, so that you get the full amount of money that you're due under your insurance policy. This is critical for everyone to make sure you've done that. If you don't provide that information, the insurance company either doesn't have a duty to pay you or may offer you less money than you think you're entitled to. And that is very, very important for all of you to know when you are considering pursuing the claim. And then when you've done this, you can ask the insurance company specifically in writing, dear insurance company, I've provided you with all of these items. Please pay me the total amount of money, or write me with the specifics of which items you're not going to pay full value for, or which items you're not going to cover, and why. And this way, you can get a clear understanding of what you're entitled to, as well as what it is that you may need to file suit or make demand or do other things to ensure that you're going to be fully paid on the insurance contract that you have been paying for in many occasions for years or decades.
When you talk about insurance and how much insurance you need, because of fires or any other thing, the additional amount of insurance that you have to pay to be fully covered in case of a hurricane, let's say, is not that much more. In other words, the cost of insuring yourself properly for a hurricane-related loss is not as much as people may think, correct?
That's correct. And you can pay small amounts of money to increase things which you think would be helpful for you. So, for example, it might cost you $50 or $100 to get $20 or $30 or $50,000 more of contents coverage.
Wow.
And if you have property in your home that is worth more money than you're getting in your contents coverage, then by golly, you certainly would want to purchase the additional insurance that's available to you. So it's important to pay attention to what your policy says. I mean, most people have learned through this storm that they had no idea what their policy said, and they had no idea how much their policy covered, and they had no idea what was covered by which items. So now that you know, you should be looking at what you have in your home and what you have outside your home and determine whether you need more or less coverage. You might not need as much coverage for coverage B if you have no fence and no pool and no detached garage and no detached barn. You might not need very much coverage for coverage B, for example. If you have a brand new roof and brand new windows, you might not need as much coverage for those items. You really want to look at if you have important things in your home, you might want to get more contents coverage. If you have a place to live in the event of a disaster, you might not need as much coverage D, but if you don't, and you've seen what's going on with the price gouging, you might say to yourself, I want to make sure I have additional living expense coverage, and you might find out it's very, very small in the amount of money you would pay to get additional living expense coverage. So it's paying attention and then talking to an agent. And if you're not sure of what agent to use or your agent wasn't as productive as you thought, you can call the 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS, and you can ask us, hey, listen, do you know the names of some insurance agents? We don't get paid any money. We'll tell you, here's some insurance agents that we trust, that we think have done well for clients. Let them go and look at your property, price out what your options are, and then you can make the decision on whether or not to go with that person who doesn't have an interest in anything other than getting you the most coverage based on your personal and individual needs.
Got to take a break. If you want to get on the air and talk to Scott, if you have a question, 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988. Be right back. Stand by.
This is better than anything else on the air in the mornings in Panama City.
Hear that? Maybe he's not so great. Maybe he sucks.
More with Kramer in the morning. Next on NewsTalk at 101.
Scott Mager's with us from Mager Peruis in the Storm Help Team. Got a question? 850-233-9988 to get on the air. Donna, you're up with Scott Mager. Hello, Donna.
Good morning. How are you guys this morning?
Super.
I hope we have a good connection. I'm out by the airport, so if I lose you, that's why. But I should be okay. I'm under a tower here. I do have a question about our insurance company, our mortgage company. Of course, we carry an insurance, homeowner's insurance, and it's been a year now. And, of course, right after the storm, when we filed our claim, it's been pulling teeth to get $1, but of course they right away send you your new statement for $2,500 to make sure you pay your policy on time. So I think my question is, what is the best time to drop that insurance company and go with a new company? Is it not wise to do it while you have a claim that's not settled, or what is your opinion?
Sure. So the question is whether or not you should drop your insurance company, who hasn't paid you, or whether or not there is a good time to change insurance companies when you dissatisfy them with them. And
that would be the correct question is, what is a good time to change? Yes.
Yeah. The answer is that you are not in any way faulted by changing insurance companies during the time that you have a pending claim. And what I mean by that is you have earned whatever is in that contract. The best thing that you can do is to try your hardest to get as much money as you can that is covered by the insurance policy, regardless of whether or not you change companies. So what I mean by that is you can change companies at any time, and in my opinion, as a litigator, it will not affect the insurance company's payment of your claim. And so if you are wise, the number one thing to do, the first thing to do, is to make sure somebody is advocating for you in the best way possible to get your most insurance dollars. And while you're doing that, you can have a qualified insurance agent or brokerage reviewing your policy to determine whether or not this insurance company or another insurance company is a better place for you to go. And then you can go forward with changing that policy however you see fit.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And one more quick one. Do we have a time limit? I mean, is there like a time when it's like October 31st, too bad, too late, you haven't gotten your money? And I mean, is there a time limit on all this activity?
Sure. The question is there a time limit on recovery of claims? And the answer is the time limit for flood claims is 1 year from the date of the storm. You have to have filed flood claims. But with regard to homeowners' claims, structure claims, things which are covered by wind and rain and hail and things like that, those claims you have 5 years from the date of the event with which to file a legal action. Obviously, you would never want to wait that long, and I recommend every single person to file suit as soon as possible when you realize that the insurance company is not going to pay you. So most people would know within the first month or two, the first 3 months, a short period of time, 90, 120 days from the storm, whether or not they're going to be paid if they have provided all the appropriate data which the insurance company requires. I would immediately file suit so that I could determine what the insurance company's defenses are and determine whether or not there's a problem with coverage. Maybe I don't have items covered. Or alternatively, maybe the insurance company needs a little motivation, which I've found in all of my lawsuits, to contact you and pay.
A little motivation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Kramer.
Open help for you.
Thank you very much. By the way, Scott Mager's phone number is 844-800-LAWS. If you want to call and contact him off the air, 844-800-LAWS. Look, the disparity has taught us, if there's one thing that anybody should have learned over the course of the past 11, 12 months, is that the insurance companies do not have your best interest at heart. I'm sorry, but that's just, and that's based on not what they say, but on what they do. My wife has a friend. She was telling me this. I think they went back and forth with the insurance company. The insurance company said, well, we'll pay you $10,000. And my wife told me this over the weekend. And so they go back and they go, $10,000? Absolutely not. And they said, ultimately, how much money do you want us to ask for? And they said, well, in order for us to repair our home the way we need to do it, it's going to be at least $80,000. So they went back and they upped the 80 to like $110,000 or something, and then they wound up getting, I think, $115,000. But the disparity between $10K and $115,000, given a little motivation, as you said, it usually tends to work. And it's baffling. It really is baffling. And not only that, it takes 10 months, 11, 12 months to squeeze them? It shouldn't be that way.
Crazy. You're absolutely right. It shouldn't be. It's crazy. And what's amazing is that there are a number of insurance lobbying efforts right now in play to try to eliminate attorney fees and eliminate the ability of people to recover money by reducing the ability of an attorney to step in and file suit and get attorney fees. And so as a result of that, what's happened is, now you'll have even less rights. So I can tell you, Florida is one of the few states in the country that provides for these rights. And thank God that those rights exist. I wish people did not have to get a lawyer involved in order to get full payment. I wish we didn't have to motivate insurance companies to pay full value. I wish there were other mechanisms to encourage the more quick payment so that we wouldn't have businesses closed for a year, or many of the small businesses that will never reopen as a result of the damage, even though they might have had insurance coverage. And the displacement of families and the rent nightmare and this price gouging sense that would not have had as much of an impact had we had recoveries faster. People don't realize the compounding effect of non-payment, the compounding effect of idiots who try to suggest that lawyers aren't helpful, like they did in the first 90, 120 days of the storm, or that they're somehow more expensive when a lot of my claims, the fees are virtually nothing, or other types of problems that created either doubt or delay in the minds of people who needed this coverage. They're now realizing that people like us are good people trying to do the right thing and simply hold to the insurance company. Not in a punitive way, but simply hold the insurance company to the contract, to the promises that they made. Not for $1 more, but for the exact amounts of money. And if they don't pay those, then there's a penalty which could exceed the contract price. And those are important criteria that everybody's entitled to have in their arsenal when an insurance company doesn't pay.
Got to take a break. Scott Mager's with us. Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team. If you want to get on the air, you got a question, light them up. 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988.
This is the Kramer Show on Panama City's information station, NewsTalk at 101. WYOO, Panama City, a Magic Broadcasting radio station, 101.1 FM.
We must stand up every day and catch the stories that others might miss.
And online with breaking news from Panama City.
There is a lot of that. You have the truth on your side.
This is NewsTalk at 101. Really refreshing.
All right, 7:37. Scott Mager's with us today, as he is every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 till 8. Chance for you to get free legal advice from one of the most prominent attorneys, one of the smartest attorneys I've ever spoken with, and an all-around delicious human being. 850-233-9988. Scott Mager and Tim, you're up with Scott. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi, I was wondering about contractors and what to do with contractors. Like, we signed a contract in December, and we're supposed to be back in our house by March, and we're still not even close to being back in our house. And, I mean, we've already paid them, so we don't know what to do.
Okay, the best things when you're dealing with contractors is very similar to insurance companies in that you want to start writing letters. So writing emails. You want to start documenting what was promised and what's being performed or not being performed. So if they haven't come back out to your property, or if they are slow to finish things, then you start writing them every day, every other day, every week, whatever you prefer. Dear contractor, it has become clear to me that you've not honored your contract. Please provide for me the next times when you will be able to complete the project. Respond within the next 2 or 3 days. Love and kisses, you. And if they don't, then after that, you say, this is my second reminder and third reminder. And when you start providing data in writing, and they don't provide explanations for why it is that they're not finishing on your property, it provides additional information for you to declare them in breach of contract. You don't have to write letters in order to declare people in breach of contract, but it eliminates confusion if you have been waiting quite some time for people to respond. In your particular case, if they were supposed to finish by March and they haven't provided any information to support why they haven't finished, then you have several options. You can file complaints with the state of Florida against their license. You can file local complaints with the Better Business Bureau. You can go to the police if you think they've stolen your money and haven't done work. There are a number of things. You can call the CFO and you can report them. There are loads of opportunities for you to do that are separate and apart from filing a lawsuit against them. Now, if you don't have success with those things, you could then file a lawsuit. You can hire a lawyer and you can file a lawsuit against them for breach of contract and for all of the damages they've caused. So if you had to live in another property, they would be responsible not only for the breach, but for all of the consequential damages that have resulted from their wrongdoing. And if you've been made any promises by the individual owner or any representations, there may be personal liability against the company. But the most important thing for you to do is to take affirmative action, start documenting the problems. If you are going to hire a lawyer, or if you're going to make a complaint, it's a good idea to establish a chronology. So write down all the things that have occurred since the time you hired them, or the things that haven't occurred, all the promises they said they were going to fulfill but didn't, so that you have a documented set of information with which to either report them or to give to a lawyer.
Will text messages work? Because I message them every single day.
Yeah, sure. So keep your text messages, take all of them, forward them to a printable format. You can forward them to your email or you can print them from your phone so that you have a bunch of text messages and put them together, in my opinion, in a singular letter, and send a letter to them saying, I have written you 362 times and you have not responded. You have not provided an explanation, and I'm reporting you to the state, or go to a lawyer and file a lawsuit, and you'll probably prevail.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. If you have any other questions, please let us know or call us at the 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS.
I actually called you and left a voicemail.
Sure. If you did, then just call back when you hang up the phone and ask for Brian Perulis or myself, and somebody will get it.
Are you still there, Scott? I think maybe we lost you. We had a bad connection there for a second. You there?
I'm there. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, I got you. Yeah. No, we had a little connection issue. But for the caller previously, call back 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS, and as Scott said, you can ask for Brian Peruis or Scott himself, Scott Mager. At this point, I do hear a lot of people say that, it's taken more time than they ever could have imagined with some of the contractors. They'll come out, they'll act like they're in the game, and then they'll just kind of disappear. Seems like that's happening a lot. I mean, a lot of people are getting gummed up with contractors that are not honoring what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, and I think you have to approach it the same way you approach the insurance company or anybody who makes a promise. You have to hold them to their promise. If they're not going to do it, you document it. If they still don't do it, report them to the state, report them to their licensing authority, report them to the local entities, and then engage a lawyer to pursue your litigation rights. And believe me, those things work. They work.
Yeah, well, I mean, and two, we've also said this on the show before. I think people are intimidated about getting an attorney. But what you have to realize is that until you do, we've heard from so many people that didn't have an attorney, and they just either didn't get fully paid, or they're sitting around on their thumbs and hands, and they don't know what's going to occur in the near future, and nothing really seems to pan out until you get an attorney. And it's not that you're trying to be mean or nasty. It's just that basically you're having to do that to force the hand. And as Scott said earlier, the key word, motivation. Until they have motivation to do something, they're not going to do it. You're up with Scott Mager on the Kramer Show. Go ahead. Caller? Hello. Let's try the other side. Go ahead. Caller, are you there? 850. Scott, do I still have you?
You got me.
Okay, all right. 850-233-9988. We'll go to line 9. Hi, you're on the Kramer Show. Scott Mager, hello. Man, I don't know what the deal is with the phone lines today, but we're having some kind of issue. Caller, we'll try another one. Caller, you're up with Scott Mager. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, this is Fernando. I had a kind of an unrelated thing to contracting. It had to do with income taxes. Back for Irma, what Congress did is it passed a law where you could increase your standard deduction by your expenses up to like $20,000. I've been Googling this for, ever since the hurricane, and I don't know if any provision like that has been made for Hurricane Michael. And I was wondering if you had any information or a website I could go to that would discuss any tax relief kind of thing for Hurricane Michael.
There are tax benefits available. If your accountant is unable to help you, if you call the 844-800-LAWS number, we'll give you the name of an accountant that can tell you the answer to that question and how much tax relief you can get as a result.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah,
sure. Have a wonderful day.
844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. How is Brian doing? Brian Peruis. You guys were in town, and I always thought I thought the conversation was fascinating about the actual contacting of the insurance companies. One of the reasons why I find it so fascinating is just that no one really seems to be good at it. And Brian and both of you guys said that he was really exceptional at contacting these people and having a rapport with them. And I just thought I would throw that out there. What's going on with Brian lately?
Yeah, he is a master of the ability to communicate effectively with the insurance company. As I mentioned to you, since we've gotten involved on behalf of our clients, it is extraordinary the amount of insurance company phone calls and their lawyer phone calls. Probably 60, 70, 80% of the clients they have called to ask for settlement numbers. What happens is when you establish a rapport with the insurance adjuster, that is the right rapport when a lawyer's on the other side as opposed to someone else, a contractor, public adjuster, or you. What happens is they realize that there could be a larger penalty if they're unable to pay. And this may be sad to hear from many people, but a lot of times these insurance companies aren't going to pay until there's a sufficient motivation. And what do I have to prove that? The actual proof? The proof is in all of our claims, hundreds if not thousands of claims. What happens is when we file suit, we get phone calls, either emails or phone calls from lawyers or the actual insurance adjusters asking us for our demands. And so what's important is that you establish rapport, and Brian has a good rapport, knows how to talk to these adjusters to maximize the recovery, and talks to them all day long. And after a while, when you start talking to these adjusters and you become friendly with them, they realize you're not the enemy. You're simply trying to get the amount of money that the insurance company promised to pay under their agreement. Tragically, for many people who like to bash lawyers, we are good people, and we mean well. And yes, just like there are horrible public adjusters and horrible lawyers and horrible contractors, there are also great lawyers and great adjusters. And so as a result, you have to find those great ones, and those great ones have good rapport with the insurance company. And so they realize they're going to have to pay a lot more in insurance proceeds if they don't pay what they should have paid 9 or 10 months ago. And so it's important to have a good rapport, and Brian does that well, and he does that all day long. And when somebody does something all day long, every day for years, you get awful good at it, and you develop relationships with adjusters that are from the insurance company. They realize you're not trying to jerk them around. You're a credible source, and so we tend to get more money.
Caller, you're up with Scott Mager. Go ahead.
I've got a question about recoverable depreciation. I've had a couple of contractors. I haven't found a good contractor yet. I fired 2 contractors, but for some reason I'm trying to figure out who is entitled to that money. It seems like the contractors, one of the contractors told me I needed to sign an AOB so he could negotiate with my insurance company. Of course, he's no longer employed, but who is entitled to the recoverable depreciation at the end of the job? Is it the customer or is it the contractor?
Okay, so let's understand what that is. What that is that the insurance company can pay the actual cash value, which is the amount of money that is depreciated when you go to fix your property. They have to pay that first, and then when you complete your repairs, they can pay the remainder of that money. It is always due to the insured. That is you. You always get that money unless you contract away that right. If you assign your right to receive that recoverable depreciation, then it would go to the contractor. So if you don't have that particular assignment of benefits, then you're entitled to receive that money, and then you pay the contractor as the contractor completes their repairs. Now, some people can negotiate with the insurance company to pay the contractor if you want them to be paid as they are completed instead of receiving the money directly. But I always encourage the insured to receive all the money and then make all the payments.
Got to take a break. More phones coming, 850-233-9988 to get on the air and talk with Scott Mager. More to come.
Good morning. More live and local in the morning. Coming up next with Kramer. This is NewsTalk at 101.
It's the Kramer Show. It's NewsTalk at 101. Scott Mager with us. Let's go to Ross. Ross, you're on the Kramer Show. Good morning.
Is that me?
Hey, welcome in.
Hey, how are you, Scott? I am a subcontractor. I don't really have a question for you, but I just wanted to say I've been hearing all these things about inpatients, and this storm is one of the worst, if not the worst. As a subcontractor, sometimes you know it's going to be bad, but you don't expect it to be 4 times the amount of time to get any materials at Lowe's or Home Depot. And all these things add up. Insurance people waiting, or a customer waiting for an insurance check to pay you, and then you have to have a delay. The disaster rebuild is completely different. Takes 10 times longer. You run into things,
no doubt,
that you don't see. A lot of people got in a hurry putting in sheetrock. It was like this, we got to get sheetrock in. And a lot of houses are like that. They didn't even get a roof first or windows. There's several houses with new sheetrock, no windows, because obviously the insurance companies take forever for windows. And I just wanted to put the word out there. We are struggling as contractors. I would rather it never have happened. And they say we're all making money, and it's not easy to make money in a hurricane disaster. It's not easy for anyone. And just speaking for the subcontractors and contractors, we are fighting hard. We are changing tires every week, every month, working from this disaster. I called in the first week, spoke to that beautiful woman that Kramer had on there teaching us. And I told her we're getting lied to by these adjusters, and somebody has to hold them accountable. It got kind of heated. And they said, everybody's got to calm down. And ever since then, for the last year, I've been hearing people getting heated, and I knew it was coming. But we are fighting as hard as we can. Once you get these delays, it delays everything, the jobs that you have in the future. And I knew better than to take on 30 jobs. We all, a lot of people did that. But one job can carry on for 6 months easily. I just wanted to defend contractors.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, and you're right that supplies and problems have occurred with the supply chain, and it always happens after a storm, and it's difficult, and in some ways, people need to be patient, but the key for the contractors is to communicate that versus those that took on too many jobs and just aren't performing. And what's most important to the consumer, that is the listener, the homeowner, the condo owner, the business owner, the church, is to make sure that you all know that you need to press forward and make sure that your contractors are as good as this caller is, that are trying to do the best they can to help people within the time frame prescribed.
Scott Mager, another fantastic hour in the books. 844-800-LAWS. That's how to get in touch with Scott off the air. Call 844-800-LAWS. Thank you for another great hour and all the awesome information, Scott. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Hey, thanks so much, and thanks for all you do for the community. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
This is live and local morning radio. This is Kramer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.